Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Smith, and thank you all the members of the Arkansas Municipal League that are here in attendance, and to the Executive Council that is here, and for your leadership, we're grateful. I see in the audience some legislators as well. Thank you for your support during the session for key issues that face our state. I see Secretary-designate Larry Walther here, my Director of Finance. I appreciate his leadership. But I want to say a word to you today to all the mayors that are here. First of all, you make a difference every day in your city and in our state in terms of solving problems, supporting economic development, and addressing the issues that you did not think you'd ever have to face. And this last couple of weeks, we've been flooded in Arkansas through the water that has come in record heights that has caused challenges for us that we never dreamed of facing. And I saw the mayors that were engaged at helping citizens, directing sandbagging operations, encouraging others. And I want to applaud all of those who have stood with us, who have been on the front lines, have done an amazing job for our citizens. Thank you. I also want to congratulate the Municipal League on what I think was a pretty good legislative session for you. You ought to be very happy with the fact that we did pass a highway bill that you supported that was historic in proportion and that will make a difference for your budgets. We were able to maintain local control, and that's something that I measure. Ever since my dad was the mayor of Sulphur Springs, Arkansas, population 400, I have been mindful of the importance of local control, and that's something that we measure, we look at as the bills are passed, and I appreciate your advocacy for your local municipality and the decision making that you can make. Now, if I might address something that has been on my mind for some time, that I believe that we needed to address as a state. And let me give you just a little bit of background, and I want to make it an announcement. Prior to my administration, C&H Hog Farm in Newton County was granted permit to operate a large-scale hog farm in the Buffalo River watershed. This has been the source of constant controversy and litigation since the beginning. It has always been my highest priority to protect the Buffalo River and to assure it as a national treasure far into the future. Let me emphasize that the farmers, Jason Henson, Richard Campbell, and Philip Campbell, obtained the permit fairly and have operated the hog farm with the utmost care from the beginning. They have not done anything wrong, but the state should have never granted that permit for a large-scale hog operation in the Buffalo River watershed. Today, I am announcing the signing of an agreement in which C&H Hog Farm has agreed to shut down the hog farm operation in exchange for compensation. The state will be granted a conservation easement to protect that land in perpetuity. The compensation will be $6.2 million, which will pay off a multi-million-dollar loan and will compensate the farmers for their loss of an ongoing business. The $6.2 million cost will be largely public dollars, but I'm grateful to the Nature Conservancy for its contribution that helped close the gap between what the state could pay and what the farmers believed was needed. I applaud Jason Henson and his family for their cooperation and willingness to close the operation. This will be a process over the next few months, Businesses do not shut down immediately. It will take some time to sell off the swine that's on the property, to close the operation, to make sure that it's put back in the right condition at the time the conservation easement is granted. But I want to go a step further today, and that is I'm also announcing today that in order to assure this does not happen in the future and to make sure the Buffalo River is protected, I'm directing that the current temporary moratorium on large-scale CAFOs in the Buffalo River watershed be made permanent. I believe in the right to farm, and I believe we are standing by those farmers today when we give this compensation to someone who was rightfully engaging in their enterprises. But if you look at the future, while we want to have farming operations, we also want to protect the Buffalo River watershed from those large-scale operations that will endanger a national asset. Now let me shift for a moment after those serious words and that announcement. Let me come back and talk for a moment about what's ahead for us as a state. As you know, I have set a priority for economic development. And last year was an election year. I stayed close to home. I did not travel. But this year it is important to re-engage in marketing the state of Arkansas. And so we want to continue to bring business. And while we announced in Central Arkansas the location of CZ USA, a firearms manufacturing company that will bring 600 jobs here to Central Arkansas, paying an average of $22 an hour for each worker. This is the kind of job creation that we need in our state. And so I'll be traveling to Europe. I'll be marketing Arkansas, both in the aero defense industry, in the steel industry. I'll be recruiting automobile manufacturers, visiting with them. And we don't know where they land. We don't know where the next business opportunity is. But what we have to realize, wherever you are in Arkansas, if we can bring a supply chain driver like a CZ USA or a Sig Sauer or Caterpillar, then what benefits the small communities across Arkansas is the contracts that you have with those businesses and the small businesses that are supported in your community. So we have to recognize that if we can be successful in one area of the state, it is a victory for the entire state. We want to continue to do that work. Secondly, we've learned from this flooding that we have to continue to improve the levee system in Arkansas. It is critically important. As I flew from Little Rock up the Arkansas River into Van Buren and Fort Smith, and I saw the levee system at work, I appreciated more than ever how we need to make sure it is maintained properly, that it is strengthened, and those gaps in the levee that cause breach and flooded farmland and homes, we have to engage in the important work of making sure our levee system in Arkansas works properly, and we will continue to work with our local levee boards and with our state agencies to study and to improve that system in this state. We look at the legislative session, and we passed a historic highway funding bill. And soon this year, this fall, you'll start receiving some of the benefits of that, because 15% of that goes to our cities. And as we look into the future, and currently you're getting 15% of the proceeds of the half-cent sales tax, we're asking the voters in November of 2020 to extend that into the future. We need your support and help in making sure the voters are educated about that extension and the difference that it will make in your communities if you had to lose that revenue streams for your roads, for your streets that are so critical to the development and growth of your community. And so I will seek your help in that regard. Finally, we also had our 911 system that was revamped in this legislative session. You came to us and said there's not sufficient funding for it. We reworked it. The legislator did an incredible job. We have a reform board, a new board that's going to be created for that will go into effect when that law goes into effect. But that is an important function to make sure that you have the funding that you need for the 911 system, and but that we're also efficient in the operation of these systems for public safety, but also to make sure that we're not wasting any taxpayers' dollars. You are engaged in the service industry. You serve your constituents. You serve the people in your community, and that's one of the reasons you're involved in public service. Sometimes there's just joys that bring smiles to your face when you can touch a life. I remember, some of you might not remember, some of you might not have had the same experience, but when I was in the 5th grade in Gravett Elementary School, the teacher gave us a project, and that was to pick a state and to write that state for information and do a report on that state. I picked Pennsylvania, and I remember doing that report and learning about it. So when I became governor this year, I thought about all those 5th graders, and sure enough, they started writing me. 5th graders from all over the country write me and say, I'm studying Arkansas, can you send me some information? I signed every one of those letters personally. And so I had a letter this year from Carol from Dallas, Texas. He was a 5th grader, and she wrote me the letter, and I signed the letter, and I sent it back with some information about Arkansas. She got the letter from the governor of Arkansas, and she was excited to receive it, and she brought it to her classroom, expecting that all of her classmates received the same type letter from the governor that they wrote. She soon learned that was not the case. And when she learned that, she went home that evening and told her parents, when we take a vacation on spring break, we want to come meet the governor of Arkansas. And so right in the middle of the legislative session, Jennifer Siccardi, many of you know her, my receptionist, she comes in my office and says, Governor, I've got a 5th grader named Carol from Dallas, Texas, here with her parents, and they think they're on a mission from God to meet you. So I brought her in, set her in the governor's chair, an experience that she will never forget. The impression and the lives that we touch in public service can be through policy, can be through a simple touch, or it can be through something that is big and that will last for generations. Regardless, let's be grateful for the opportunity that we have to serve the people of our city and the people of this state. Thank you, and God bless you.